Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob Dagate, and it's now my pleasure to be joined by Suzanne Troxclair, who is the Superintendent for the Catholic Schools for the Diocese of Houma-Thibodaux. Thank you very much for joining us, Suzanne. We certainly appreciate you coming on to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, I know one big thing that has been happening, of course, with the Hurricane Ida that came in, a lot of damage, a lot of relocations that took place. Can you tell me a little bit about what's been ongoing with the students and the schools themselves?
Right. So, of course, all of our students were impacted in some way. All of our schools were impacted. Many of our students and their families, our teacher ministers, our administrative ministers, our staff in our schools were all impacted, not just on a school level, but on a personal level as well. We had some schools with more significant damage, so it required us to find some alternative locations for those schools for a temporary period of time. And one of those schools was Holy Savior in Lockport. It's a nursery to fifth grade school, and we were blessed that Father J.D. Mathern of St. Hilary offered the facilities on his parish facilities for us to be able to use for a school. There was a school there several years ago that closed in the 90s, St. Hilary, and we were able to utilize that campus for our students of Holy Savior, which is normally located in Lockport. So right now, temporarily, our Holy Savior students are in school at the St. Hilary's facility in Raceland. That was one of our schools impacted. Another school with significant damage was St. Gregory in Houma. And Father Cody Chatinier was very gracious to offer the use of St. Anne's Community Center for our students until they can return to their own campus. At St. Anne's, it's a beautiful facility built in 2013 and has an upstairs with all classrooms that they utilize for our faith formation. So it was a great facility for us to be able to have our students there temporarily. So we were very blessed to be able to relocate those two schools through the generosity of those parishes. And then Vanderbilt Catholic, as you know, in Houma had significant damage as well. And that was a little more challenging, a very large school in comparison. So we were able to utilize the facilities of Edie White by platooning our students and alternating days between Edie White and Vanderbilt in Thibodaux at Edie White's campus.
Okay, and that's my understanding. I guess that just wrapped up. They were able to get enough of Vanderbilt repaired to allow the students to return.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me, I guess, how that process went? I'm sure that the logistics of everything, you certainly had your hands full. I would imagine getting that going. Of course, those two schools, although I guess you could say they're friendly rivals with them, but I'm sure that was interesting having Edie White hosting the Vanderbilt students over there.
Right. You know, one of the silver linings in a disaster like this is watching our school families put their faith in action, and that's exactly what happened. Our administrators of the two schools worked together to formulate a plan and a schedule that worked best for the students, and that's why we're here, to serve those students and their families. And together, putting their heads together, putting a lot of time on paper, a lot of extra time to lay that out, they were able to put a schedule together. And we're so excited that they were able to return to Vanderbilt's campus just this past Monday on November 8th. So now there is enough of the Vanderbilt facility that is safe and secure for our students to utilize it. Repairs are still ongoing, and they will be ongoing for some time, not just at Vanderbilt, but at several of our schools, including the ones I mentioned earlier. But at this point, we do have Vanderbilt back every day, regular schedule, at their own school facility, their physical plant in Houma. But through the graciousness of both schools working together and collaborating and cooperating, this was able to happen in a very positive way. You know, it's not perfect. In a disaster, we don't expect it to be perfect, but we deeply appreciate the patience and just the compassion that was shown for our students, so that they would be able to have a more normal experience when their own facilities were not able to be used for that time.
Okay, and you mentioned a couple of other schools that smaller schools that have been displaced, is that expected to last throughout the remainder of the school year, or is there any chance of getting any of the schools back before the end of the year?
And that's a great question. And right now, it's a long process in terms of recovery. We are still working with our insurance, with our adjusters as those plans come in. It's a very lengthy process, and we're working as diligently and as quickly as we can. We're also utilizing, of course, FEMA through this process. So our goal is to return our schools as quickly as possible to their campuses. And we don't have an exact date of when that will be, but again, we're very blessed that those two pastors are allowing us to utilize their facilities and working with us while they repair their school facilities enough to be able to return.
Well, that it certainly is very nice. I'm also very fortunate that those schools would be available and in good enough condition to be able to utilize, I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Early on, even talking to the public school superintendents, there just aren't enough facilities. We're all in the same boat here, and we always work to try to help each other out, but there just weren't any other facilities that we could utilize. There was no stone left unturned. We worked to try to do what was best for our students.
Talking a little bit about the ongoing recovery process that's taken place. Certainly, it's a monumental task that's not going to be resolved quickly with all the damage that took place because of Hurricane Ida. Can you tell me a little bit on how those recovery efforts are taking place?
Sure. So the schools are a major part of the recovery efforts in our diocese. We do have our 11 schools, about 5,000 students and 700 employees in our school system. But that's a portion of our diocese. There's a much bigger picture out there, and as we know, the devastation in our parishes, in Terrebonne and Lafourche specifically, was just incredible. Just incredible. And as time goes on, the recovery is still far from over, and will be a process for a very long time. I think when we are living here and living in it, we almost start to get used to seeing the devastation. We see the piles, we see the torn roofs, we see the tarped roofs, we see the debris, and we've gotten accustomed to it. However, we can't let our guard down because there's still such a great need in our diocese, not just in our schools, but throughout our diocese. People are still very much in need. And I think that's an important thing that we need people to understand. The recovery and the response was incredible from all over the country, helping us in our times of need, but we still need that ongoing help and support. People throughout our communities are still suffering greatly. Many people without homes, many people displaced. We are still feeding in those hard-hit communities and still responding, and that response is going to go on for some time. Our schools particularly have been receiving the generosity of schools and school systems throughout our country, and there's still a great need for them as well. And that continues, and we're very appreciative of that. Those partnerships have really helped us, and we hope that support continues as we continue to work toward recovery. Even our own schools are helping our neighbors, the other school systems, our public school systems in our area. We've been holding drives. We've allowed them to use our facilities. Football games, we've many times fed their players and fed their fans in times where we were able to utilize our facilities and they weren't yet. So this is an opportunity for us to truly put our faith in action, and I can't say that enough. We've been blessed to see that happen from within our diocese and outside of our diocese to help our neighbors.
Oh, it certainly is a wonderful thing, seeing all the help that was brought into this area from outside of the area. Of course, though, as time goes on, the further we get from the date of the storm, I guess, that there's other disasters out there and that there's other needs. But in this area, it's going to be left up to the people of this community that, as like you said, that recovery, it's not just getting back on, shortly thereafter the storm. It's a long process that you're going to see. And I guess in schools, you would think that, you may be able to get the school children back in the classroom, but that doesn't mean the work's over, that there's still other things that need to keep on taking place.
Exactly. We are so lucky that since October 7th, our students have been back in school. And with Vanderbilt returning this past Monday, they are back in school every day, in-person learning. But what's happening for our school families, whether it's our students or our staff, they're still having to recover on a personal level as well. We all lost, days of school, some greater than others in our school system. So we have a learning loss that our teachers and our schools are working to make sure that gap is filled. That's just a natural process when you've missed several days of school. So that's been important. Work has been very intense in our schools to help our children bring them back to where they need to be and that level of normalcy. So not only on a financial level, many people are impacted, or on an educational level, but also a social emotional level. And it's very important that we meet those needs of our school families and our community as well. So we do have counselors within our schools to help our school families in that way. And throughout the diocese, our Catholic Charities has been working in disaster response since August, since we came back after the hurricane on August 29th. Very quickly, we moved into disaster response mode and are still very much there. So the need continues. As you said, recovery will be a years-long process, not a months-long, but a years-long process. So anyone who is still interested in helping can go to our Catholic Charities website or our htdiocese.org website, and there are ways there that they can help and support those in need.
Okay. And I guess you could say with not only just the hurricane, you also had, the year before you had COVID. I don't envy the school children. I guess they're a little bit more resilient being young and not realizing the parameters of everything, but they certainly had their hands full.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key word is resilience. God blesses us, and our children are so resilient. They have taken it, and they see the glass half full. It has been an incredible process. I think sometimes as parents, it's a little tougher on us, but our kids have been fabulous and have risen to the occasion.
Well, thank you again for joining us, and keep up the good work. It was a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned for more right here on HTV.